War in Europe, 1945. January. The German army withdraws from the Ardennes. The Allied army take the offensive east of the Bulge, but they fail to close the pincers and surround large numbers of German units. Having captured Strasbourg, the French 1st and 2nd Army Divisions have to defend it against determined German counterattacks. Operation Blackcock. British forces clear the Ruhr Triangle, driving the German front line further back into Germany. The Victoria Cross was awarded twice, both posthumously, to Fusilier Dennis Donini and Lance Corporal Henry Harden, Royal Army Medical Corps during Operation Blackcock. US 1st and 3rd Armies link up after a month-long separation during the Battle of the Bulge. Russian troops capture Warsaw. A communist pro-Russian government is installed instead of the Polish government in exile. Looking tired and war-weary, Roosevelt is elected US President, becoming the only president to serve more than 2 terms. Russian troops liberate Auschwitz concentration camp. The Malta Conference. Churchill meets with combined chiefs of staff and Roosevelt to plan the final campaign against the Germans. The Russian army crosses the Oder River, the border between Poland and Germany. They are now less than 50 miles from Berlin. February. The Yalta Conference. Roosevelt and Churchill meet Stalin at Yalta in the Crimea to discuss post-war reorganisation of Europe, which includes Poland ceding territory in the east to Russia and being given land in the west from Germany. Operation Veritable, to break through German defences at Clever-Reichwald, is launched by the Canadian First Army. The Kulmar Pocket, the last German bridgehead on the west bank of the Rhine, is cleared by the French First Army, reinforced by the US 11th Corps. During the fighting, Lieutenant Audie Murphy, who would later become a Hollywood star, climbed into a burning M10 tank destroyer and opened fire on enemy positions. Large parts of the historic city of Dresden are destroyed by a firestorm after Allied bombing raids. As a result of a navigational error, 40 American B-17 Flying Fortresses bombed Prague in mistake for Dresden, 120 kilometres away. Operation Clarion. 3,500 British and US bombers and 5,000 fighters attacked 200 German rail and transport infrastructure sites. The heavy bombers attack in smaller units and from below 10,000 feet. March. The RAF attempt to destroy V-2 rocket launching sites targeting British cities. Fog and cloud obscure the target, and navigational instruments had been set incorrectly. Boisenheld is bombed in error, killing 511 Dutch civilians. To secure the last oil reserves available to Germany, the Germans launched their last offensive to defend the Hungarian oil fields. It fails. On arriving at the Ludendorff Bridge, the last bridge crossing the Rhine, the US 9th Armoured Division are astonished to find it still standing. Low-grade explosives had damaged the bridge but not destroyed it. US engineers risked their lives to remove the remaining explosives. 6 Allied divisions crossed the undamaged bridge before it finally collapses 10 days later. The Allies capture Cologne. Approaching from the northwest, the US 3rd Armored Division. From the west, the US 104th Infantry Division. From the south, the US 9th Armored Division. Operation Carthage. At the request of the Danish resistance, the RAF bombed Gestapo headquarters in Copenhagen. Gestapo records are destroyed and Danish prisoners escape, but sadly a close-by school is also hit. The British 21st Army Group under Field Marshal Montgomery forces the crossing of the Rhine at Oppenheim. Operation Varsity. To support the crossing of the Rhine, 16,000 British, Canadian and US airborne troops under Montgomery drop over the Rhine at Wesel. The largest single-day airborne drop in history was a success, with all objectives taken and held. The US 5th Infantry and 6th Armoured Division capture Frankfurt. April. In northern and western Holland, city by city, town by town, are liberated by the 1st Canadian Army. Canadian soldiers are greeted by cheers and gratitude and would forever be held in the hearts of the Dutch people. At the Kaiserode salt mine, the Allies find 250 tons of gold bars and coins and art treasures stolen from all across Europe. The German armies in the Ruhr pocket are surrounded. President Roosevelt, much admired leader of the USA during World War II, dies. Harry Truman becomes president. The Russian army takes Vienna. At Gardelegen in central Germany, over 1,000 slave labourers are imprisoned in a barn, which is then set on fire. Just a few hours later, American troops arrive. After 2 days of fighting, Arnhem is liberated by the 1st Canadian Army. The Bergen-Belsen concentration camp is liberated by the British Army. They find over 13,000 unburied bodies. After a fierce 5-day battle, the US Army captures Nuremberg, site of Hitler's huge Nazi propaganda rallies. Field Marshal Model's German Army Group B, surrounded in the Ruhr pocket, surrenders. Hitler celebrates his 56th birthday in his bunker in Berlin. He came out of his bunker, hands trembling, to award Iron Crosses to boys who had been fighting on the Eastern Front. Russian troops begin their final attack on Berlin. Thousands of German women are raped and civilians murdered. After being informed that the planned counterattack had not taken place, Hitler launches a furious rant about the treachery and incompetence of his officers. Hermann Göring sends a radiogram to Hitler's bunker, demanding he be declared Hitler's successor. Furious, Hitler strips Göring of all his offices and expels him from the Nazi Party. Albert Speer, Minister of Armaments, informs Hitler that he has ignored his Nero decree order, the complete destruction of all German infrastructure. Himmler, ignoring Hitler's orders, makes a secret offer to surrender to the Allies. His offer is rejected. When Hitler hears this, he orders Himmler shot. American and Russian troops meet at the River Elbe. Mussolini, heavily disguised, is captured in northern Italy while trying to escape to Switzerland. Mussolini and his mistress are shot and hang by their feet upside down in Milan. The people of Venice rise up against the Nazi occupiers. New Zealand tanks and British infantry cross the causeway to liberate Venice. Dachau concentration camp is liberated by the US 7th Army. All German forces in Italy surrender and a ceasefire is declared. In Operation Manna and Operation Chowhound, the RAF and US AAF, under a truce with occupying German forces, drop food to starving Dutch civilians. Hitler marries his mistress, Eva Braun. Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun commit suicide. Hitler's body is burnt. Hitler's 1,000-year Reich has lasted only 12 years. May. Goebbels, Minister of Propaganda, and his wife murder their 6 children and commit suicide. Russian troops capture the Reichstag building. The battle for Berlin ends. Admiral Karl Donitz orders all U-boats to cease operations. All German troops in Denmark, northern Germany and the Netherlands surrender to British General Montgomery. At 2:41 a.m, Germany surrenders unconditionally to the Allies at the Western Allied headquarters, Reims. VE Day, Victory in Europe. The ceasefire takes effect from 1 minute past midnight. Hermann Göring attempts to pass through a checkpoint with forged papers and is arrested. Heinrich Himmler, chief of the Gestapo, commits suicide by swallowing a cyanide pill. June. The war against the Japanese in the Pacific continues. At Okinawa, as US troops fight a fanatical enemy, the British and US fleets fight off suicidal kamikaze pilots. The Allies divide Germany and Berlin into 4 areas of control: American, British, French and Soviet. The United Kingdom begins demobilisation. July. American, British and French troops move into Berlin. The first detonation of an atomic bomb takes place in New Mexico, USA. At the Potsdam Conference, the Allies agree to insist on an unconditional surrender of Japan. Labour wins a landslide victory and Clement Attlee succeeds Churchill as British Prime Minister. August. US B-29 bomber Enola Gay drops an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. The city is destroyed and 80,000 people are killed. Russia declares war on Japan and invades Manchuria. Kukura is obscured by cloud, and Boxcar, the B-29 bomber, flies onto its secondary target. An atomic bomb is dropped on Nagasaki. 40,000 people are killed instantly, and 30,000 more would die of their injuries and radiation sickness. Emperor Hirohito of Japan announces the unconditional surrender of Japan. Victory over Japan Day celebrations take place worldwide. World War II is over. The Allies are victorious. November. The Nuremberg trials begin, bringing Nazi war criminals to justice.